Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast. It's your host, Jamie G, and I am joined by Blessings Chibamba. Bless, how are we feeling after the great result that Brighton beat Newcastle 1-0?
Yeah, no, feeling good. I wasn't very optimistic about this one, especially with Isak coming back. So it is a massive result.
Yeah, and I think we now sit fifth in the league. So are European hopes still alive? Is Champions League a possibility even? I mean, we're 8 games into the season, and yeah, we're fifth in the league, 15 points, only 2 points behind the likes of Arsenal. Aston Villa are still flirting about the Champions League places again. So is European football actually up for consideration? Should the Brighton fans listening to this pod start getting excited?
I mean, we have to dream. We have to dream. I mean, I think the main thing is coming back from that defeat from Chelsea, turning it around against Tottenham. We've clearly shown that there's a lot of hunger and fight in the team. So I reckon we can believe. I think if we can be consistent throughout the Christmas period and going to the new year, and we're still flirting there or thereabouts, then you got to believe.
Yeah, you're always dreaming. The dreams are perfect. That's all we can hope for. And then the hope is what kills you. And then they'll finally let us down. But for now, we are living on this high. And you mentioned about the hunger. I think that is something that we saw in the performance on Saturday against Newcastle. Because I don't know whether you feel the same, but because our team is so young and there were so many young players in that squad starting, you had Belieber, you had Hinchelwood, obviously, you had Ayari and Evan Ferguson also play, Ruter. I felt like the hunger to win the ball back, the dedication, the work rate, the work ethic as well, just was completely personified that performance. That was the big takeaway, I thought, from that performance.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think I was paying a lot of attention to Ruter, and his work rate is unbelievable. He's literally constantly running and supporting, and that's exactly what you want to see. And I don't know if this is a Hertzler thing. He's just, pumped into them some more energy and just how he is, or like it's a youthful thing. But like even Milner runs about when he's free. So yeah, that was a really good thing to see.
Yeah, I think it is kind of a Hertzler thing. He's like clearly brought this identity of my teams will outrun and outwork the other team, and they will hunt down every ball. They'll try and chase down. They'll defend for their lives. Even like Ruter, you mentioned it, perfect example of that in terms of he always tracked back. I don't think there was a moment where he didn't help his fullback, whether he was playing on the left or the right. He always tracked back and always double teamed whichever winger they had out there. So sometimes Gordon, sometimes Harvey Barnes, sometimes Jacob Murphy. If he didn't really ever see the ball, to be fair, Jacob Murphy. But yeah, that such a good performance. I was so impressed by him, and even his hold-up play, like to get us out of tight situations, was so good. And in that performance yesterday, one thing I was thinking of mentioning as well is yesterday we played a much different way. We won. It was very much snatch. What's the saying? Snatch and grab kind of result. We did kind of feel like we've robbed them of a result, if a point maybe they probably deserved. But that's the kind of results you kind of want to get is those snatch and grabs where you can just win a game where it's not going your way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think those types of games, I'm a bit cynical. Those types of games are probably my favourite ones. Like bit of a scrappy goal, but you won 1-0, you had to defend, everyone had to work really hard, and the home supporters not very happy. Those are my type of games, to be honest. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it's and especially because it was an away game, it's kind of even better silver lining is the fact that we managed to get away, and then the long journey back for our fans that did make the trip to travel. feels much nicer when you do come off a result like that where you have robbed a win. But yeah, to the point of the stats, we played a much different way. I think that was the first time this season where we've had less possession than the opposition. They had 60% possession, we had 40. Their XG was much better than ours. They had an XG of two. We only had an XG of 1. I mean, even the goal was our first shot on goal, and we scored it. So yeah, it was interesting to see us sit deep compared to our usual front foot style of play or playing in the final third.
Yeah, I think the last couple of games, this whole season, we're trying to learn what Herzl is about and what how he's going to approach certain types of games. And what we saw from Chelsea is that, it felt like he sticks to his guns and he won't budge whether the team. But it's good to see us sort of adapt to a different to a different style of game and actually get the result over the line. So it just shows that he's sticks to his principles as much as possible, but he's willing to make tactical adjustments to actually get the team over the line. So I thought it was a good thing to see.
Yeah, that's a great point in terms of, because we even questioned it on the pod as well, because we were thinking this guy needs to change his philosophy in some games. You can't be playing this high line, or you can't be so rigid in playing the way you want. And it looks like maybe the time away for the international break, it kind of prepped him for that. Maybe he looked back at past performances that we've had this season and looked at where we've gone wrong in the past and thought, oh yeah, maybe I can improve here. Maybe I need to change the way we play, especially when we don't have our full team playing today. So today we did have to bring in a Yari and Ferguson, give them their first, or Ferguson's first start of the season, a Yari second, but those aren't the starters. So it's interesting to see us go to a 4-4-2 when our lineup isn't as strong as it would be, like without Matoma and without Minter.
Yeah, and just wonder what you thought. So when I saw the lineup, I don't know what you think, but I was a bit worried. If we played our normal style, I think we'd have been caught.
Yeah, I thought, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the lineup, I thought, oh, this is gonna be a long day at the office for some of the lads, because they had their strongest lineup, and Newcastle last season especially were renowned for all these injuries that they had and never having the full lineup. But they had Isak back, and they had Anthony Gordon playing on the left. Their full midfield when Sandro Tonali was back, when he's not away for certain reasons. Bruno G's in, and I did think, God, the lineups, it's like their strongest versus our weakest, or a weak one for us. And I did think, yeah, it's going to be a long day, but it's even more impressive, the fact that we were actually able to win that game with that lineup.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the main messaging, again, like we said, was just to work as hard as possible and get over the line. And obviously a bit of class from that guy, but I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
A bit of class from him as well. And Brighton take the points. We love to see it.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the goal in the next segment, but after this short break. World needs to hear. Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K audio recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And we are back to talk about that guy, Danny Welbeck. He has done it again. Will we ever get tired of saying that? I think that's his 5th goal of the campaign. 8 games, 5 goals. He's already tied the last year, his whole goal tally of the whole last season in 8 games this season. God, that man, bless you. You bigged him up at the start of the season, and you are starting to look like some sort of genius.
I mean, this is probably the 5th time I've been involved on the podcast, and we've done a whole Danny Welbeck segment, and I'm just in awe of the man at the moment, because just the things he does. It's not just the goals for me as well. It's the bringing players into play. He drops deep. He had a slightly different role because Evan Ferguson was around this time. But just what the things he does, the little things he does for the team is so good to watch. And I think Evan Ferguson's got a really good role model actually to watch and learn from. But yeah, again, I said it at the start of the season. He looked sharp. He looked confident, and Hertz is using him in a really good way that sort of suits how he plays.
Yeah, and Evan Ferguson's got someone that he can mould his game around and learn and look up to, and because they're so different style of players that everything that Welbeck can do, it's like everything that Welbeck can do is something that Evan Ferguson can look to develop in his game. Because I would say Evan Ferguson's probably more the natural striker. The if you were to paint a picture of a striker, that's who you'd kind of envisage. Whereas Welbeck is the mature, the elder statesman, the wise one, the one that's someone. And I feel like he's got so much better with age. I don't know. This has to be his best season so far. It feels like he's way more switched on, like up here, than everyone else on the pitch. Like his IQ is there. It's what I liked about the goal, and it's been seen throughout this season. Is he never looks to stop running? So he laid off the pass and then he spun behind immediately. And then he's through on goal, looking for that pass. He's always on a pass and move, and that's what sums him up so perfectly, is that he's always on the move. He's always looking to be a danger and always looking to be a threat in behind or dropping deep and just dragging the defenders around the pitch. I mean, Dan Burn in the first, I think, 20 minutes, he got put on a yellow card because he couldn't deal with Danny Welbeck. And as I kind of anticipated before the game, Welbeck would drop deep and Dan Burn would have to then follow him and a little spin round the corner and he has to commit a foul. That kind of was the pain in the backside that Dan Burn and Fabian Schär had to deal with all game.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing about the goal, it reminded me of just the old school Premier League days. Like, I know everyone's trying to play fancy football, but this is like a long boys chesting it down, little 1-2s. Really, it looks really simple, but the skill to actually have a really good touch to get that ball down, the awareness, like you were saying, just to continue that run after he's laid it off. Like, you know, the streets will never forget Danny Welbeck, and I hope his injury isn't too serious and we see him again.
Yeah, fingers crossed there that injury isn't too serious. I mean, I did see Brighton post a picture on their Insta of him on the plane back to Brighton. So fingers crossed he's all good. There was it's also the strength. Like he's been hitting the gym because he looks hench as well. Because when Livramento was there to try and cut him off, no, man had different ideas. That guy Danny Welbeck had different ideas and just shrugged him off the ball, or shrugged him away from the ball, shall I say? He didn't get close to the ball, and then able to slot it in that bottom corner. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing I like most, is how much his game has developed from when he was at Man United like 15 years ago to now the 33-year-old of Danny Welbeck. I mean, even when he got that move to Arsenal, this is probably even better than that version as well.
yeah. I mean, it is pure vintage, fine wine Danny Welbeck mode at the moment. And
Yeah.
Hertz as well has just been singing his praises. I think even like behind the scenes, you can tell that he is probably like an uncle figure.
Yeah.
I don't want to diss him, but he's probably like an uncle figure in the dressing room. Whereas like he can sit with players and just be like, this is, he knows the Premier League inside out. He can really help those young lads in there as well.
Yeah, I think that's what Dunk said on Match of the Day, actually, in the post-match interview. He did say about how Danny Welbeck is a role model for so many of the young players and they all look up to him. So it's good to also see him there. And that's where you also hope the injury doesn't keep him away from training and doesn't keep him away from the ground or keep him in the medical room for too long, because he is a massive role model for those players. And you mentioned earlier about the goal being vintage Premier League, just a long ball. That kind of goes to our point earlier of how we did have to kind of switch it up and how we did play a different style of football. I think because we knew, and I don't know whether this is something you noticed as well, but we did look for a long ball quite often. I think that's also because we know how dangerous the press of Newcastle is. And Anthony Gordon, in the first 10 minutes, caught Verbruggen out twice, just by properly closing down. I think that's when they started realizing, oh, we might have to start going long.
Yeah,
And
so.
the goal was perfect of that. Just a long ball, he chests it down, and then that's where the goal comes from.
Yeah, again, it's the players is hurt, so it's just seeing and adjusting that it's really good to see. And I think you've got to always use the strengths of your players. And Danny Welbeck's shown throughout the season that his hold up plays, like you were saying, he looks much, much bigger. His hold up plays improved so much. I think this is when I think of him back in the day, I didn't really think of him as a hold up player. He was more like on the shoulder trying to run in behind, but obviously that pace is gone. So he's had to sort of adapt his game as well. And yeah, he to be able to be mixing up with big centre backs like Burn is impressive.
Yeah, massively, massively. There was obviously you mentioned the injury earlier. It was such an innocuous big word for me. Knock just came out of nowhere, that injury, and I hope he's okay. I don't know what the injury is as of now. It looked like he was holding his back, but having to get stretchered off is never an ideal look. Um, but yeah, it just came from a long ball yet again, and just Fabian Schär nudging him in the back. No foul, obviously, but nudging him in the back, and Danny Welbeck just grabbing that back, or his hip, lower back, whatever you want to call it, and then having to be stretchered off. Yeah, massive loss, massive loss.
Yeah, not the scenes that we wanted to be seeing. I did get a message from Joe, and he said, "Would it be appropriate to hold a 1 minute silence?" And I was like, "Probably not. Probably not." But yeah, he'll be a big miss. So we just hope it's nothing serious. We can wrap him up in bubble wrap and just keep him fresh for the next one. I hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Prayers up for that guy, Danny Welbeck. And our 1 minute silence will be happening. It'll be 32 seconds during this ad break. And we're back. We've had our minute silence. We've mourned the loss of Danny Welbeck. And now we're here to talk about some anxious moments that we felt during the game. Because, like we said, it wasn't an ideal Brighton performance, or maybe not the ideal Brighton performance is the wrong way of putting it, but it was an anxious watch at times. They had a lot of chances. Their XG was 2, which was double ours. And, I mean, the whole stealing of a result is kind of epitomized by our goal. But 90 seconds before our goal went in, Alexander Isak, who looked rusty in the game to say the least, was put through on goal one-on-one with Verbruggen 90 seconds before that, and an absolutely exceptional save from Verbruggen, who rushed out and then one-on-one got his foot out to the ball. Were there moments where you thought in the game, bless that, you're like, uh-oh, we could be conceding here, or were you always confident in our defence?
Yeah, no, there was definitely moments where I was very, very worried. I think Gordon 1v1, we know exactly what he's about, and they've just got so many. They've got so many players who just specialize in something, and they could hurt you in different ways. Like Joelinton as well, he's just a powerhouse. Like he just causes chaos. But yeah, when I saw Isak's back, I was worried because he's a real player. He's a serious player, and I think he's just a bit rusty. Where he's been out for a little while, but he had I think he could have had about 3. um, but yeah.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, you mentioned Gordon. I thought the start of the game against Veltman, there was actually something we should probably talk about. Is there was a handball shout right at the beginning of the game where Veltman gets kind of done by Gordon. Gordon knocks it past him. He kind of recovers but falls. He lands on the ball. Kind of his arm grazes the ball, but he's clearly trying to like remove his arm from like touching the ball. And it was in the box as well. And I think I saw a couple of Newcastle fans online say that should have been a penalty, and they feel robbed and hard done by that. I can kind of see where they're coming from, but also I think he tried his best to remove his arm from touching the ball, and then he's just come away with it. What did you think about that, Bless?
Yeah, the thing is, I think Veltman's been involved in a few controversial things.
Yeah.
So as soon as something happens, everyone's on it, I think. But yeah, it's difficult. If you're on the floor, unless your arm is sticking out and the ball's being crossed in or something, it's quite hard to give a penalty, in my opinion. So no pen.
Yeah.
I did see Newcastle fans upset on Twitter, and I wanted to get involved, but I chose not to.
Yeah, Veltman is the master of the dark arts. I'm sure he'll get involved himself. He'll start trolling some of them, I bet. But yeah, Anthony Gordon was a threat all game. I thought like he was the only place where I thought maybe we would concede is him giving Veltman a tough time. I thought that was actually potentially the toughest test Veltman's had this season, to be fair. I thought Veltman surprised me, and he's been solid all year, but thought that game was probably one of his worst. But I think it has more to do with the quality of Anthony Gordon than it was like anything like Veltman falling off or being bad. There were other moments, like the 60th to 70th minute, like that whole 10-minute stretch was where I was thinking, we're going to concede here. They had so many times where we just flew at the ball, blocked it. They had so many shots at goal where we just put our bodies on the line. And there was an incredible block by Jack Hinshelwood where he just ran from across the pitch and just dived in front of the ball. What are some moments that you thought, Bless, that you were thinking, where or will they score here?
Yeah, I was really confused with the shape, and towards the end, it was looking like a back 5. But I think one player who I do have to shout out, because I've been quite critical of him when he came into the team, is Eagle. I thought he was excellent. I thought he played really well, and it was really good to actually see that, because again, when JP got injured, I was very worried. So he slotted in well and played really well. But yeah, I think there was a period towards the end where it looked like a back 5-ish, or maybe we were just camping. That's when I thought, okay, there's just going to be too much pressure and we might collapse, because they were getting the ball wide. Jolinton was getting closer to the centre forward as well. So it's
Yeah, I think it was a back 5 that we went to especially towards the end of the game, because Van Hecker came on, and then we kind of just defended for our lives and said, let's just try and keep this clean sheet, which is also a rarity compared to last season. We've got another clean sheet. I'm pretty sure last season we didn't have a clean sheet the whole bloody time. So it feels like what a relief. We've now actually able to keep clean sheets and defend for our lives when we need to. But yeah, great point with Igor. We have been critical of him. And it's great to see such a good performance from him. And he was one of the ones that did epitomise putting his body on the line and making those vital blocks and goal line clearances even sometimes to try and keep that clean sheet. And it's refreshing to see him be so much better than Adam Webster. So hopefully Adam Webster doesn't play again.
Adam Webster getting stray shots.
Yeah,
for no reason.
No reason. But yeah, there we go. Those are our fears. And it was another good line. There were moments where, like, I think they had in the 90th minute, they were tried playing like lofted balls just into the box, and we all stepped at the same time. We were keen to get them offside, which we actually did with one of their goals. But yeah, I can say with confidence, I was sweating watching the end of that game. Knees
Yeah, I
weak,
mean,
arms are heavy, palms are sweaty, or whatever the words are.
uh,
And on that note, that is everything. Our thoughts, our reaction to Brighton's 1-0 win against Newcastle. Thanks so much for listening. I've been Jamie G. That's been Blessings Trabamba, and we will see you tomorrow.